Hello for part 2 of tonight's non-political lecture. This totally apolitical, totally focused on Excel. Okay. So, here we go. How'd you make out on the data tables one? I'm sorry, on the goal seek one. So now, Trin has decided if she wants to fast track the payback and pay $700 a month, it should take fewer months. How do I find out how many months that's going to be? Data tab, goal seek, ba-boom. What cell does she want to set? This cell right here. She wants to set it to 700, this time by changing D4, the number of months, right? Anybody take a guess? What a guess. Is that incredible? Did you miss the bit about the smartass who's working ahead of me? And give me yeah, so it's about 250 months. Okay? So there we go. It's very handy. If you don't like the answer, you don't take it. So now, how goal seek is working, I'm going to show you because it comes up later when we do optimization. If I can get the pen out of here. Okay, I'm going to go tablet on you here, get a clean sheet, and go to, I should be able to, it's under the review tab. Okay, and I can start inking. Okay. What color do you want? How about that? Okay, so this function, that's the payment function. Here's the monthly payment. No, sorry. Wait, we can do better than that. Okay. Here is the mortgage amount. And here's the monthly payment. What does that look like? Is it an increasing or decreasing function as the mortgage amount increases? Increasing. Is it a linear function? Does it go up exponentially? I don't know per se, but the thing is, let's suppose it's some nonlinear curve, because that PMT function is a pretty hairy type of thing, because you got to work it out that each month you're paying a bit of the principal, then you're paying interest on the rest, then the next month you've got a little less principal to pay. You've seen the mortgage schedule for these things. So the point is, in general, when you have, I'm trying to find the value where this monthly payment is $700 a month. Sorry, that's not right. The monthly payment is up here, right? I'm trying to find the interest, the mortgage amount that corresponds to a payment of $700, right? So if I go here, I'm a little too low. If I go here, I'm a little too high. And what happens is goal seek says, okay, if I go here, I'm a little too low. Which direction should I go? Should I go east or should I go west? Should go east, right? Should go bigger. And the way it does that is it actually calculates the gradient of the function there, the tangent line. And it says that tangent, that slope is positive. So therefore, I progress along the curve. Okay? And when I find out, I do because I'm going to get a higher monthly payment, I'm going to get this. Eventually, it goes too far, so it backtracks. And it converges. That's the general nature behind the goal seek, as it tries to match things up, and it uses some kind of calculation of the slope as it goes on each side. So I can be done with that and click on back to the data thing. Cool. And this was another sheet, so I should be able to be right here. Okay. So that's how it's working. And it does the work for you, and you don't have to do the back and forth and diddling around. Now, here's a question. How often do you think someone like Trin might say, you know what, I get it. I get the idea that if I borrow, I can borrow more than 100,000. But suppose I would like to just see in increments of $10,000, let's say 80,000, 90,000, 100, 110, and 120, I'd like to see how much my monthly payment's going to be, so that I can discuss with the, whoever's I'm in this deal with, significant other or flatmates, whoever we're going to buy this house with. So I'd like to see, now what's one thing Trin could do? Plug in 80,000 here, see what the monthly payment is, capture it and record it. Plug in 90,000, capture it and record it. Plug in 100, record it. Plug in 110 and record it. By the way, why is that? Oh, because I've lost my formula. Am I? I accepted this. This shouldn't be 100,000 anymore. Oh, I changed the number of months. That's what did it. Oh, sorry. Back to 360 months. Thanks. I was freaking out here. Okay. So back to the original problem. I want to see in $10,000 increments all of the monthly payment amounts. Now that's not that big a deal to do it 5 times. I could do it. But what if I wanted it in $1,000 increments? I just wanted to see what that schedule looked like. Instead of doing the tedious work that I just described, it would be nice to do it all in once. And you can do that. It's called a data table. Okay, now watch how this works. There are really 2 kinds of data tables. There's a one-way data table and a two-way data table. Let's look at the one-way table. And the way, 1 or 2, just means how many things are you changing at once. Now, if I go up here to do this problem and change this 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, how many things am I changing? 1. I can look at a lot of different things coming out. Like I can look at my monthly payment. I could look at other things. There's nothing else in this problem to look at, really, so that would be the main thing to look at. Okay, so what I do is on the left side of a table that I'm going to create, I want to put in the amounts that I could potentially borrow. 80,000, 90,000. Do I need to keep typing? No, right? I highlight these and drag it down. Excel senses. Did I show you, by the way, on just a digression, did I show you how Excel can pick up other things like the months and so forth and the quarters? Did I show you that last week? Okay. So, this notion of picking up the delta and continuing it is really great. If I type January and I copy this down, I get that. Excel knows. In fact, Excel knows even if I did that. Oh, bugger. Come on. I don't have the fine motor control. If I was doing quarterly analysis and I had the first quarter, what would you expect to happen if I was going to do this for lots of years? You'd first want a copy on this. Handy? We're going home at 5. That's the idea. Okay. So therefore, I didn't need to, once I'd done the 80 and the 90, I could have stopped. Okay. All right, now what do I want to see opposite each one of these? The monthly payment. So the way to do that is at the head of the column where you want to see the result for each of these possible values down the left-hand column, you make a cell reference to where in the spreadsheet that value is. And where is it? What cell has the value I'm looking for? D5. The monthly payment. I guess I gave it a range name at one point in time. Okay, and that's it. Now what Excel's going to do, if I run it through this data table, it's going to iteratively plug in 80,000. Once I tell it where to plug it in, I want to plug it in up here in cell D2. Plug in 80, calculate this formula here. Plug in 90, calculate, plug in 100, etc. And to do that, I highlight the entire table, including this empty cell in the upper left-hand corner. I go to Data, What If Analysis, because you remember that was the other kind of what if analysis. Data Table. And now I'm presented with this dialog box. I'm presented with the row input cell and the column input cell. This confuses people very often. The idea is that these numbers that are input, are they in a row or a column? Then it's a column input cell. Across the top, if I had a two-way table and something was changing in the row, then I would have a row changing cell. But right now here, even though these are different rows, they're expressed in a column. So where, in fact, is the generic appearance of the thing that's changing in this column? Where did we say it was? D2. That's all I need to do. And then all I do is say OK, and it fills in the table. And it wouldn't matter if I had 10,000 possible mortgage values. Bang, it's going to do it for all of them. This is very important to learn this concept. Very handy. Now, how many of you didn't get this answer? And let me guess, Connie, you got the 599.55 appearing in all of them? What'd you get? You got it here? Did you make a reference here to cell D5? Oh, you put it in the row instead of the column in the dialog box. That's what I was saying. Try the data table again. Highlight the whole thing. Go to what if data table. Now there's nothing changing across the top row of that table. So there's no row input cell. However, the column input cell is the thing that's changing down this column, and that was D2, right? Did you do that? So when I say OK, it should work. Now, who's typing that in but still not getting the different values I'm getting? Nobody. Everybody's getting this. Amazing. I'll tell you, what are you getting?
I'm not getting anything. I'm getting about. Tell me what you're typing in the row input cell and column input cell.
Nothing in the row input cell. D2, D for David 2 for the column input cell. Well, D2 is the amount I'm borrowing. Right? So that's the cell that has that generic thing. Okay, let me tell you why someday in your life you will encounter the problem I thought you would. You see, what Excel is going to do, as I told you, it's going to take 80,000, plug it into the whole, wherever it fits in the spreadsheet. And where does it fit? I've already assigned it to D2. It's going to plug it into D2, do all the calculations, and spit back whatever cell is at the top there, or whatever calculation is there. So you see what happens. If I plug 80,000 in there, you know what's at the top. Right? 80,000. If I plug in 80,000, the monthly payment's $479. It's the first value that I got. If I plug in 90,000, well, let's change it up. 110. I'm going to get the next to last value, 659. See, I got that, 659. So that's what it's going to do, iteratively bouncing back and forth. Now, what if I did have a table that had 10,000 things that I wanted to fill in? And what if this calculation to find the value, this is it's a simple function, but what if I had some really complicated formula involving looking up something in a probability distribution or some very hairy function? It could take time. It could actually take a few minutes. So there are times you want to do this calculation, and the problem is every time I make a change anywhere in the spreadsheet, you know how Excel recalculates everything in the spreadsheet. Well, not being told otherwise, it will also recalculate the data table. But if that's going to take a lot of time, I don't want to do that. So there are occasions where you want the spreadsheet to recalculate except for the data tables, because it takes a long time. Does that make sense? So let me show you where you make that change. Under formulas, because that's what we're talking about, you'll notice you have some calculation options over here on the side. And if you click that, there's a drop down. I would guess that everyone who's got a laptop here and has been trying to follow along has had the automatic thing clicked. Is that true? Let's suppose I had automatic except for, did I click that? Automatic except for data tables. Let me show you what would happen. Let me clear this out. Start the data table again. Everything's the same as what I did before. Data, what if, data table. I want to change the column cell. What's that column cell that's changing? D2. Okay. What happened? It didn't do the data table because I told it not to do the data table. Now, if I go back in here and I click on formulas, calculation option, and I say make it automatic, it fixes it up. There comes a time, sooner or later, this happens to everyone. You pick up somebody else's spreadsheet, and they've got the thing, everything except data table. Or, worse, you make a simple change, and they've got the manual thing here. Now, what will that do? You know how I kept changing this? Suppose I change it back to 100,000, and I enter. Watch this. It didn't change. I'm pulling my hair out. How could it not change? Because it's only going to change when I hit F9, which is, did I change the fixture on this? I think I did. I'm afraid. Okay, if I hit F9, it does the calculation. See what I'm saying? So that's why it's very important to know about this, even though you could potentially go through life never having encountered this. But my experience is sooner or later, this happens to everyone. Okay. Okay. All right, so we got that. Now, what about this? Let's suppose I want to, Trin's really getting into this. And she say, okay, I get it. For different amounts borrowed, I get that. How about different interest rates? Because I think I might be able to, I don't know if I can nail 6%, or maybe I'm going to have to pay more, maybe I want to pay less. So how about looking at all combinations? This is what this table down here wants. I want to look at the amount borrowed, 80,000, 90,000, 100, 110, 120, and I want to look at interest rates starting at 5%, going up in increments of 0.5%. And for each combination, I want to calculate how much do I have, how much is my monthly payment. You follow that? So what am I going to do? What would be the fastest way to put in those amounts borrowed up here? Perfect. Whoever said it is right. I would copy these because I've already got them there. And when I go to paste here, remember when I right click, if I just say give me what it is, it's just going to put those numbers in. This is the formula. That's not going to be different, but this is the transpose. It means it's going to take a column and turn it into a row. If it had been a row, it would have turned it into a column. So that gives me that. Now how about to enter these interest rates? 0.05. And then what was it in increments of 0.5%? 0.055. And then I can do my old trick of clicking and dragging. Excel will sense the difference. I'm all set up. Now what do I want to see in this table for all possible combinations? The monthly payment. Where is that monthly payment? No, it's up here in D5. D2 is the amount I'm borrowing. It's in D5, right? Isn't that the monthly payment? So what do you think goes in the upper left-hand corner of the table? A reference to that monthly payment, which was in D5. Okay, so it's in there. Now, how many times does Excel have to calculate the monthly payment? 6 times 5, 30 times. For every combination of interest rate and amount borrowed, it's going to go through into the spreadsheet, enter it, capture the amount of the monthly payment, and spit it out into the table. Watch. It's this easy. As long as I have automatic as my formula option. Go to data, go to what if, data table. What cell is changing in the row? The amount borrowed, which was this guy right there. What cell was changing in the column cell? The interest rate. That's it. End of story. There's my monthly payment schedule. This can be pretty handy. Not only that, when we get to optimization, we'll be using another form of this, and when we get to simulation, we'll be doing yet another form of this data table concept. Your name?
Yeah, Luis. And what's the reference? What do you need to reference it?
Well, Luis, when I go to the data table, I had two things it was asking for. What's changing along the top row of the table, which was in cell D2? What's changing down the column, which was in cell D, whatever it was, 3 or 4, whatever it was. That's what I entered in there.
Yeah, but what is the reference for?
When you say the reference,
The 599.
that's the cell that I want to see appear as the output.
You have to have it there?
Where else would you like to put it?
It looks confusing there.
Well, the point is, if you think about this table, sorry, cancel that. If you think of this as a table that I want to fill in, there's really only one spot that wasn't occupied. Question?
Well, instead of the one-way table, you're referencing the above.
Yeah, that makes it a little confusing compared to the one-way. The thing about the one-way is, if I had a more complicated thing where I was going to put the future value, I was going to put down how much interest I paid over the 30 years and some other things, I could have those various things going across the top. It's still a one-way table because only one thing is changing. And if I did that, I would highlight all of these. And it would simultaneously give me the future value, the total interest paid, and all the rest of it. See what I'm saying? Could you hold your card up?
Yeah. So for a two-way table, for your reference, say you could put the time, the duration, and take payoff, and you
Yeah,
pick what you're displaying.
that's interesting. So Abel is proposing, would it count? What would happen if in here I put the cell that referenced the number of payments? What will happen? I will get a whole table label of 360s because there's no formula in this cell. So what you might like to do is to have it iteratively do the goal seek kind of thing, but then you're asking it to do 30 goal seeks, and it's not geared up to do that. So that's why if I put a reference here, I'm not going to get anything very interesting. By putting this, there's a formula in there that's a function of the D2 and the D4. And it's a function of those things that I'm changing. Okay? Great question, but now we can see what happens. Luis, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it is a little bit different than the one-way table, but that is ultimately the logical place to put it. And in fact, you could actually put the formula here besides the reference. I could have actually put this formula there, and that would also work. Okay? So now you know two very important things, goal seek and that. We ready to go on to the next bit? I'd like to go on. This is filtering and pivot tables. Okay. This is not so much needed for modeling except for going through your data beforehand to see. I hate this example. I'm going to have to change it some other time. You know what I'm going to do? To stick on the topic, here's what I'm going to do because we already only have a half hour left. I'm going to jump to these other useful features. And for the pivot table, definite homework assignment is to look at the Excel Now video and play with the data. Remember how Excel Now works. If you go to, where would you expect to see pivot table here, by the way? Under what set of options? Data analysis tools. No, because we're in Excel Now. Okay, I'm under the Excel Now tab, and I'm trying to find the bit on pivot tables. So of all of these option groups, which one do you think would be the most likely? It's a data analysis thing, right. And if you click here, you can either click on pivot tables and bring up the sheets that describe it in gory detail. It's all you need. It has data to practice on. What I would suggest also is click on the video. And by the way, if you didn't catch something I said on data tables, watch the video or watch my video again, either way. Okay, but here's where you can use Excel Now. And I'm asking you to do it. To watch the video on pivot tables, it's 20 minutes long, and click on this sheet of pivot tables and do all the examples where he says try it, and he gives you some practice data. Fair enough? Everyone's going to do it? Do I have to make that an official assignment with a Dropbox? No. But don't cheat yourself. This is your chance. And if you know it directly, you should be able to do it. You don't have to watch the video. You can immediately do it. And then you can go into the exam fully comfortable with pivot tables. Okay. So that's pivot tables. And then if you want, you can go back at this as another exercise and see if you can do this on filtering and pivot tables. Now, filtering, I'm not sure how good the video is or the Excel now is. So we'll come back to that next week and do it if it turns out that filtering wasn't well covered. All right? Because I really want to show you these other useful features, which are kind of fun. Copy, paste, and transpose. I've also done that. When you copy something, like I copy these, and it says here in the text box, I want to transpose these so I have the directions going across the top and the miles underneath them. I want to transpose that whole table. I want to make columns rows. So I do the traditional copy, but when it comes to paste, when I right-click, if I just did paste like that, it's going to give me the same old thing. This just pastes the values. This just pastes the formulas. This pastes the transpose. So if you can see, and it says transpose. You see the word, the clue? You're getting the word transpose, so you know that's what you want. I click on that, now I've transposed it. Excellent. So transpose is easy. We already used it in the previous one to grab all of those mortgage values that we're going to pay to transpose it into the row. Now this is fun. If you haven't done this before, this is probably the most fun. Even those of you who've used Excel a lot may not have encountered these things. These are two very important functions called index and match that come up a lot in spreadsheet model building. Here I have a whole bunch of cities. Here I have their 3-letter airport code. We're familiar with all of those, right? Oh, I never put Houston in. I should have. Okay. Here's the number of passengers they handle each year. And here's the distance to the central business district. So we're given a table with some data. So I ask you, what city has the most passengers? Who can I call on? Jared. What city has the most passengers? That was a trick question. In Excel, what city has the most passengers? Think of it in terms of Excel functions. Who's sitting next to you, Jared? Sana, of course. It's the max. Because we're thinking Excel. We don't want to do things by inspection, and we don't want to put in particular values. Okay? So the maximum number of passengers is equal to the max of this column here. Right? Fair enough? 88. Now, why would I want to find out where that is? Because ultimately, I do want what Jared gave us. I do want to find out that it's Atlanta. I do want that. But here's how it's done in Excel. The first thing I do is say, here's a whole table of data. I know that the maximum number of passengers came from this column, and in fact, it's the maximum value that's there. So how far down that column did I have to go to find it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wouldn't it be great if there was a function that could tell me how far down an array I had to go to get a match for, in this case, the 88? Then if I know that it's 5 down, I can go to this array and go 5 down and get the city name. It's a bit convoluted. If you think about it, it starts to make sense. Let's do it. Applying the match. Well, how do I know? There's a match function. If I'm not too sure, it says, what's the lookup value? It's feeding me. It's telling me, what's the lookup value? I13. Right. That's the value. And then a comma. What's the lookup array? What array do I want to look up that value? All of these C's, right? Okay, next. What kind of match do I want? Do I want to have the nearest one less? This isn't the Price is Right. I don't want the nearest one less than. I want an exact match, right? Because that's going to tell me where to stop. Click on exact match. Question, Elliot.
What happens if two cities are the same?
You'll get the first one. So if that's an issue in what you're doing, you have to take that into account. You'll probably get the first one. Okay, so now I've got that, and now I said I wanted exact match, which is a 0. If you forget the 0, funny things are going to happen. Now when I hit enter, what do I expect to see? 5, the number 5, and I do. So now using index, I can get the city, because I can say take the index array. These are kind of partners. Match and index are kind of partners. What's the array I want to do? I want to use to index to get the it's all the city names, right? That's the array. And what row number do I want? Well, it's the 5 or whatever was in that cell right there. I had to move it. It's I-14. That's all I needed. It's just a 1-column deal, so I only have to give the row number. Bang, Atlanta. You see how that works? Okay, so someone on this side of the house, Valerie, want to help me out? We'll do this one. I want to put down the city here that had the minimum number of passengers. So what do I put in this cell? First I have to have the min function, right? Because equals, right. Min of these guys, right? Do I need a right paren? I don't actually have to type it in. I can just hit enter. What comes on the next line? How far down did I have to go down that array? What do I want to match? I want to match the result in this cell, right? And I want to match it to which column or which lookup array? All of these numbers. Are we all right, Valerie? Okay, and do I want an exact match? So I need a 0. Okay, so it was the third one. Now what do I put here in the index one? It wants the array first. Which array should I pick? The city names right here. Good. How far down do I want to go? I-18. So I could type in here I-18. Bang, Newark. It works. Any questions on this? Yes.
If you rearrange the columns, could you do the same thing instead of match and index with VLOOKUP, for example?
Great. What's your name? Okay, Juan. Juan suggests, what if you rearrange the columns, and actually you have to rearrange the columns and the rows maybe to do this, I don't know, just, okay, you're saying make this the first column, then do an exact match with false in a table lookup, and that would have worked also. However, there are times we wanted to learn the index and match, so, and no, that's fine, Juan. I mean, the idea is there are often many ways to do things in Excel. This is to illustrate the use of index and match, where you might not want to do this wholesale rearrangement of all the data. Yes, Amy.
Just to tag on to the previous question, so there's no way that you can pull back duplicates if there's more than one. It's only going to give you.
Yeah, you see what's going to happen is, let's try this again. Let's make Newark, sorry, let's make LA have 88 million passengers, all right? So it's picked LA instead of Newark. Oh, sorry, Atlanta, when it's not unique. So you kind of have to be aware of what to do if you don't have unique sets. If you really care, you might not care. If you don't care, but depending on what the application is. If you do care, you'll have to find duplicates. The way to find duplicates is by filtering or sorting and stuff like that, which we can cover later. So everybody okay on this, on using index and match? Very cool. Now on index, by the way, You can have a row and a column, and we'll have examples of that from time to time. In other words, I knew I wanted how far down this row. But for example, suppose I wanted the distance instead of the city name. Okay, so over here, I want to get the distance to the central business district for the airport that's carrying the minimum number of passengers. Okay, I should be able to say I can take the index, got to spell it correctly, index of, now what I'll do is, I'll take this whole array here, and what row do I want? I should be able to put a comma in. What row do I want? This one right here, right where the match was? And what column do I want? Column 2. It's the second column of this array that I've highlighted. So I get the 16.8, which was Newark's distance. In other words, I was just illustrating that index. Sometimes you have a table. For example, I could have a table of distances from to. Suppose I had all of these cities from to, and the matrix element was the distance between the two cities. And I picked two cities, let's say city 5 and city 7. I would want to do an index on that whole array to get the distance between them, and I take of that whole array the 5th row and the 7th column. You see? Question?
Can you highlight the cell again?
Sure. This one right here.
Are you just enter 2?
Yeah, because I knew it was, in this particular case, I'm just showing you if you have many rows and columns in the array that's in your array. Your array sometimes is just a row, and you're picking which column do you want going along the row. Okay, so Juan, you can see where we want to know index for its own right, even though you were quite right that you could have done a VLOOKUP for all that. Okay, ready for cool? This is going to be a lot more fun. All right, so here we go. Here's the city, and I don't want to type all of these cities. I see what I've got is my admin doing the work, and I want the admin to be able to pick the city and then automatically fill in the code, like if it's Atlanta, ATL, how many passengers, and what the distance is to the central business district. Okay, I want to be able to fill all of these in after very quickly picking the city. For that, we need what's called developer tools. There are a whole bunch of cool developer tools here. Now, you notice I have the developer tab here, right? And if you're not a user of developer tools, my guess is you don't have it. Anyone have developer tools in the tab? So you use it regularly? Okay, aren't they useful? Yes. My witnesses. I bring people to bear witness. Okay, so all of the rest of you who don't have the developer tool, would you like the developer tool tab? Yes, Prof? Yes. Okay, we need to add it to your menu bar. Here's how we do it. Watch carefully. If you don't have your laptop, take notes. I go to the File button. If you have anyone with 2007 here, the Option button, Chelsea, that'll work. Do you have a work computer that you can't put 10 on?
No, I just haven't made it to your.
Can I suggest for the second third of the class, it's going to be a lot more convenient to have 2010. It's $14 at the Cougar Byte. So sometime I suggest you get it. This part you didn't really need it for, but you'll click on the Office button, and then you may have options or something like it, or maybe it says add-ins right away. I don't know what it says. Okay, we click on Options. Under Options, I've got, I have to remember where, don't tell me, I have to look, Formulas, Proofing Language Advanced, Customize Ribbon. Could it be that? Could be. So can you find your way to Customize Ribbon? I'm not sure of the way in 2007. Everyone else got this? Because we're going to customize the ribbon. Right now, the ribbon did not have a tab for developer. Over here, you've got all of your main tabs. but I bet you developer isn't checked. Correct? Check it. And then back out saying OK. Now do you have the developer tab? Yes? Excellent. I hope you take notes if you haven't got your laptop with you. Okay, so you've got the developer tab now. Oh, we get another nice ribbon there. And there are a bunch of things we're going to work on here that are under the Insert tab. Insert option, rather. When I click on it, I get a whole bunch of neat things called form controls and ActiveX controls. Do not click on the ActiveX controls in this class. Strange things may happen to you. We're only interested in the top half, the form controls. And if you float the mouse, you know how you get these little clues like on each of these, I forget what these little telltale hints are. There's a formal name for them. But watch what happens as I float over this thing. Button. What about this one? Combo box. Guess what? Checkbox. I bet you it's checkbox, is it? You have to really, checkbox. How about this one? Someone tell me, what are you getting? Spin button. What's this one? Boy, you have to have very fine touch. Oh my. This is like finding a GSpot. Just kidding. Oh, that was taped. Don't fire me over that. I was kidding around. So, but if it's a very, very fine, if you just slip over it, I don't know. This one is an option button. This one is, oh, I had it for a second, a list box. This one is the group box. So we're going to use a couple of these, okay? Let me show you how the combo box can be done to implement this thing, which I think is really cool. So we want to put here a pull down so that people could just click and pick the city. So I want to make a combo box. I don't know why it's actually called combo box, but that's what it is right there. I'm going to click on it, and you'll get that little shape thing, and I'm going to just fill in. It's a little bit bigger than the height of the cell, but that's okay. I clicked group box, you idiot. I meant to pick a combo box. Let me delete that. I distracted myself. Okay. Where is the group box, the combo box? Developer, insert. And the combo box is that one right there. The second one in on the top. Great. Now I can paint that in right over here, a little box right there, and it prompts me with an arrow. Ah, we can see what's going to happen. Now you see this outside thing? If you position it just right and right-click, you get this little menu that pops up. What we want is to control this whole tool, this form control. So we click on Format Control, and here's what comes up. First it says, what range of things do you want to see when I'm going to click on the pull down? And what's the answer to that? It's all of these city names, right? This is what I want to see. Those guys, right? So we come back, and now where do I want to link the output that's going to tell me how far down? This is kind of like the match deal. How far down, if I click on Chicago, the fact that I've picked the fourth one, I have to put that somewhere so I can see the cell. Now here's what I'm going to do. I suggest we put it someplace where now we can see it. Later on, if you want to have slick-looking spreadsheets, you actually put it behind this cell that's showing the combo box, and then it looks like magic. But you can see where Excel is going. I'll show you. I'm going to put it right here so you can see it. I'm making the link cell G25, and I'm saying OK. Now watch what happens. I click on, first of all, the pull down. I get all the cities. I hope you're getting that. If I click Newark, it's the third city. Based on what we did with index and match, you can see where this is going. If I click on Atlanta, it's the fifth city. Okay, now you can see why if I was in here and I highlighted, well, you have to be very careful to highlight the format control, and instead of making it that cell, I made it, what cell is the word Atlanta? 23? So what is it, G23? I make it G23. Now I say, okay, this thing I don't need anymore. Now it's all magic. Chicago, you don't even know what's going on. But now to get the code, what would you put in here to get the right airport code? What Excel function would you put in there? Index, right? Because you have an array where you know I have an index, which is which array? These are the codes. And which one do I want? Which one do I want? How far down do I want to go? G23. What's ever in G23, which was the cell linked to how far down the city name I had to go. So G23. Bang, ORD goes in there. If I change this, Miami, MIA. Phoenix, PHX. Pretty good. How about the number of passengers? Same idea. What would I use? Everyone together? Index. And the array that I want to index? The passenger array. Here. Bang. And the cell that I want is coming from the link cell to the combo box, which was G23, right? Same thing for distance. Try it. Should work. Great. Excellent. Okay, what does it say now? Okay, how many times have you... Yes, Amy.
I'm having a hard time getting the cell link to move back underneath. How do you highlight that box?
Yeah, this is, that's the GSpot
What are
thing.
you looking for? 'Cause all I keep getting-
Okay, you have it like this, right? And if you click on the arrow, you're going to get the cities. What I want to do is hover somewhere around there and right-click. And if you're lucky, it'll come up. If you're not lucky, you'll get 3 choices of copy or 2 other things you don't want to do. Okay, but play around with it, hover around there. Eventually, you'll get the right spot. And then you can change the cell link. Are you changing it? Are you changing it?
I got it now.
Okay, good. I mean, that's kind of fun.
What did you change the cell link to?
Well, I changed it to what's right behind the city name. And you see why I did that? Here, I'll do that. I know, but what's your name again? Wade. Sorry, Wade. So Wade, if I've got this here, and here's my format control, right now I've got the C-Link G23. So what it means is when it does the match of how far down the array it had to go, it's going to stick that number in cell G23. But you won't see it, because G23 is going to have the city name. But you can still use it, because it's under the covers. It's under the Phoenix name. Here, does that make sense? Maybe not. Because this is a combo box, this name that's there is really just pseudo, looks like it. But in fact, what's in there is right now in cell G23, right now, if I say equals here, make a reference to G23. What am I going to get? The number 1. Why? Because when I clicked on Phoenix, that was the first member of the combo box. When I click on another member of the combo box, Chicago, it puts a 4 in there. Here, right there, it puts a 4 in there. Justin, you have a question?
Maybe just drag the combo box off of the cell it's obfuscating to answer his question.
Well, yeah, then I'm re-engineering what I did the other way. Originally, I had the cell link off there. I had it down here, like G25.
Okay.
Then I was showing you what happens. You can actually hide it. It makes the whole thing look more magical.
Okay. Well, for right now, I don't have a cell link number. So should I put anything or should I leave it empty?
No, you have to put something in. Otherwise, it doesn't link. You're not going to capture how far down the array you went and put it anywhere. So you've got to put it somewhere. I'm trying to remember your name. Chelsea. No, Channing. I knew it was Chelsea.
So how did you link the combo box to the cell? Which function?
Okay, I just right-clicked here, and I went to the format control at the bottom. And the format control, the cell link is written right here. So I've got this.
Are you right-clicking the combo box itself, or is it all behind it?
No, I was right-clicking the combo box so that I would get it to have the border around it. If I would actually right-click right on there, I don't know what would happen. Yeah, you get this move here, copy here, cancel. So you've got to do it just kind of on the edge to get the access to the format control. Okay, got it, everybody? Okay, here's another thing you've seen any number of times. You've seen radio buttons where you click one thing, another thing, or another thing. Okay, for this above application, I want to use a group box to enable a user to select whether or not it's the number of passengers that's desired or the distance from the airport to the center of the city that's desired. Okay? So in other words, I want some here, okay, the number that's desired. I want to put it in this cell right here. In that highlighted cell, I want to put the number. The thing is, which number I want is a function of someone clicking on a radio button. One of two choices. They either want passengers or distance, right? To do that, we create a group box. It's one of the developer tools. I go in here, I insert, which one's the group box? Oh, it's that guy right there. I click on it, I draw the box like that. Now I've got a group box. Inside the group box, I'm going to put two, I've called them radio buttons. Let's see what Excel calls them. Option buttons. I'm going to put two options. Put them both in the group box and then link them to the same cell. So watch what happens. We know I drop that in there. That's option button number 1. And what do I want to name that? That's going to be my first option, which is, oh, I went too far. What's that? Oh, wow. Which is passengers. So I'm putting in passengers. Fine. Now I want to put another option in there. Insert, option button, put it right here. And this one, I have a lot of trouble. Fine motor control is not a forte. What's this one? Distance, right? Now I've got two of these guys within the same box. I'm going to right click here like we've done before to get the format control. And what it's going to do is say, what link cell do I want to link it to? Once again, Wade, I'm going to link it to a cell outside the group box so you can see it. But once I do that, let's say I put it right here. Okay, that's going to be my link cell. Now the way this works is when I click on passengers, it's a 1. When I click on distance, it's a 2. 1, 2. Now in here, how can I use that? So that I put the number that I want in there, depending on what the guy clicked here. What can I put here? Louder? If. An if statement. I can say if this number was 1, then put in a back up here, right? I know I've got to get the right array, and I've got to get the right column, the right row, which comes from Chicago, which is hidden under there. And now I know I want the second column. So you see that? What's my array? My array can be all of this stuff. It doesn't really matter. So what row do I want? Well, I want whatever's behind here. Remember, wasn't that G23? So I want that array, I want G23. And what was the column that I wanted? What's the column? Well, it depended on whether I had a 1 or a 2 in this cell, right? In this cell right here. What cell is that? E36, right? So I want to put whatever's in there, right? That's either going to be a 1 or a 2, but that's going to be column 1 or column 2. So what do I have to do? I want it to be 3 or 4. Do you see that? Right now I have this array. If it's passengers, what column is it? If it's distance, the number that I have here is 1 or 2. Add 2. Exactly. So right here, I'm going to put 2 plus, I don't even really need an if, actually. An if is one way to do it. At this point here, I could, what I really meant to do is if that's 1, then go to that array 23, column 3. Otherwise, what do I want to do? I want column, how do we do it with an if? Otherwise, because I'm not using index, that's my problem. If it's 1, then I need to put the word index in here. That was the problem. I wasn't doing an index. Then it's an index of that array, and I want G23.3. Otherwise, what do I want? Otherwise, I want index of that array, that same array, and that same row. There are a lot of ways to do this. I'm just showing you one way. G23, and what column do I want? 4. Didn't like it, probably because I needed another right paren. Let's try that. So here, 18.1, is that what I wanted? If it's Chicago and it's distance that's checked, it's 18.1. If it's passengers that's checked, it's 64.2. Do you all see that? Go through that again. It's a little complicated. The way I was suggesting with that adding 2, just so that we don't forget that, let me just demonstrate that to you. My other alternative, instead of the if statement, was to just do the index, and did I spell it correctly? No. Just do the index of this array. How can I get down to that array? Where's that array? It's up here. Of this array. Now what row do I want? G23. And what column do I want? 2 plus, what was that guy, E something? Does someone remember? This one here, E36. 2 plus E36. That should work as well. It did. And if I change it to distance, I get 18.1. Sorry to keep you 2 minutes late. That's just another way to do it, making use of the and. Now, what about for next week? Pivot tables, watching the video and everything. Why don't you also see if you can figure out the spin button and the scroll bar? Okay, the spin button and the scroll bar. It's a little bit tricky, but you'll find that out. Don't get too frustrated. Just play with it.